Let's get started. Welcome to the NLC's 2024 webinar series. Today's webinar is on the easy steps to increase your nonprofit's recurring donors with James Goalder from Bloomerang. Thank you, James, for joining us and sharing this insightful information. Just a few rules of the road that I'm going to be reading. We ask that you keep all your lines muted during the duration of the webinar. Of course, if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. You can also drop it in the chat. We are recording this session and it will be shared on our website in the next few days. We will also be sharing the slide deck when we post the recording. We will have live captions enabled, which is a Zoom accessibility feature. If you find that distracting, feel free to turn them off and disabling with your Zoom. And then like I said, we welcome your questions. I will be keeping an eye on the chat. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll have about 10 minutes for James to answer any questions that come up. We are very delighted to have James with us today and look forward to a great, informative webinar. On to you, James.
Thank you, Isabella. Let me share my screen and we'll get started. Hi, everybody. I'm James Goalder. I'm with Bloomerang. And once it loads, there we go. Very cool. So yeah, we're going to talk about recurring donations, how to raise more online, all kinds of good stuff here. We did a study that I'm going to talk a lot more about in a minute here, and I'm really excited to share what we found out with you all. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really thankful to be here. As Isabella said, if you have questions, throw them into the chat if you'd like. I will try to get those as we go and kind of answer them as we go, but there should be at least a few minutes at the end to ask questions as well. Also, if I'm remembering right, I think the last slide is actually my email address. So if you're not comfortable asking questions in this kind of format, no worries. Feel free to send me an email. I'm more than happy to just dialogue with you a little bit if that would make you more comfortable. You're going to notice a couple of QR codes throughout the presentation today. As Isabella said, we are going to send these slides out to you. So if you're not quick enough to get those QR codes when I'm talking about them, don't worry, you'll be able to access all of that later on. Okay, a little bit about me. Hey, that's me. I have been at Bloomerang now for, it's going to be 10 years in March, which kind of blows my mind. It's a really long time. I am the partnerships manager, which means my job is to work with the national accounts that work with Bloomerang. So think organizations like YMCA, Habitat for Humanity, things like that. My first job was McDonald's drive-thru, which was unbelievably stressful on a Sunday afternoon after church. Crazy amount of people coming through, and they all wanted me to make sure I got their order right and all of that. So it has helped me to have a little more chill outlook since then, I guess, which is kind of nice. We do indeed have 4 kids, 4 cats, and 1 dog. As I told Isabella, I gave the dog, which is off camera, a really big treat. So hopefully we won't get an appearance from Mocha today. Fingers crossed. Hopefully that will distract her. But I can't promise anything about the cats, nor can I promise anything about the kids. They're all going to do what they're going to do. And it will be 28 years next May that Emily and I have been married. So yeah. That's a little bit about me. All right, so here we go. Here's our agenda, QR code right here. This is going to take you to the study that I'm going to reference today several times. The gist of this is that I donated $25 to 500 nonprofit organizations all around the United States. And then we compiled the results of that. So what happened on the front end? What was that giving experience like? Could I leave a gift in honor or in memory of someone? Could I make the gift using Venmo or Apple Pay? Or was I required to use credit card or ACH or something like that? And then we also looked at what happened after the gift was made. So was there a thank you process? Did I get thank you letters, thank you emails, phone calls, anything like that? And then follow up as well. So was there a newsletter involved? Maybe some invitations to come out to an event, to come take a tour, anything like that. So we looked at all of that across 500 donations that were made, and then looked at the statistics and put all of those in a report, which is at this QR code. So When you have a couple of minutes, check that out because there's a lot of really genuinely interesting information along with some good takeaways that we're going to talk about today as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, $25 to lots and lots and lots of nonprofits. So the first thing that I want to emphasize, and you're going to hear me say this a couple of times today, please, 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 please go give yourself an online donation when we're done. I cannot tell you how many times I would select an organization that I was going to donate to. I would go to their website. I would find the donate now button. There it is. Click. Okay, let's try it again. Click. Okay, that link is broken. Do they have a get involved or something, some sort of back door that I can find my way to that online donation screen? And sometimes they did, and I made the donation. And a lot of times they didn't, and I wasn't able to donate to that organization. So I think that reviewing your online donation process from start to finish periodically, ideally a couple of times a year, will make sure that links haven't been broken, that that email receipt is still being sent out, that all of those things that we just kind of assume are happening are indeed happening. Because it's a little bit heartbreaking if someone decides, yeah, I really like this organization and I'm going to go donate to them, but they can't. So please, please, please give yourself a gift. In fact, it's not a bad idea after talking about everything that we're going to talk about today. If you know some other people on this call, ask them to donate to you and you donate to them. And then you can evaluate each other's forms and your websites and your thank you emails and all the other stuff we're going to talk about today through the lens of what we talk about, and give each other hints and suggestions and say, hey, you might want to look at this or maybe fix that or whatever the situation is. So never a bad idea if you are able to do that. Okay, these were the 5 sort of buckets, if you will, that we looked at as far as the different areas that we studied for this study. So we looked at the donation experience itself. What's it like to find that donation form, to input my credit card number, all of that stuff. Then the landing page after the gift was completed, the receiving email, the thank you process encompasses a whole lot of different things. So we generally think about that in terms of, is there maybe a thank you letter, but there could also be thank you emails, thank you phone calls, some other stuff that we'll talk about, and then follow-up activities. How are we staying in touch with these people once they've chosen to donate to us? So we're going to start with the donation experience. And in that, we're going to look at these areas here, these 6 areas here. So we're going to look at these one at a time. I'm going to warn you now, on my other screen over here, I have the spreadsheet, the master spreadsheet with all of the statistics and all of that for each of these areas. So I'm going to look off to my right, I guess it's your left, and look at those statistics from time to time so that I can tell you how many of those organizations allowed for a gift to be made in honor or in memory of someone, and so on. So when I'm looking off to the side, I'm actually not looking at my dog. I'm looking at my other screen, just so you know. Okay, this is one of my favorite sort of areas to talk about when it comes to online donations. The idea here is, are we requiring donors to cover processing fees, or are we asking them if they're willing to cover processing fees? And when I say require, I mean typically with most platforms, you can pre-check that box. So in other words, I'm going to give you $25, but the gift automatically, before I start filling anything out, the gift is $25 plus, usually $2, $3, something along those lines for those processing fees. It's already baked in. If I want to not pay that, I have to take steps to unclick that, to move that slider, whatever it is. I have to actively say, no, I do not want those. I do not want me to pay those fees. This is another really good example of why it's critically important to give yourself a gift periodically. There were a number of times that I would go and give a gift, and because my finance team, who I adore, they're wonderful people, but they gave me a very strict budget for this. They said, you can have this amount, period. You can't go over. So I had to give $25, not $27.50. It had to be $25 for every gift. I would go in and I would unclick that box or move that slider or whatever that mechanism was, and I would still get charged. So you want to make sure that this works the way that it's supposed to work. Because if a donor goes to you and donates and thinks that they have removed that and they're not paying for any of that extra stuff, And then 3 weeks later or whenever they get their credit card statement and they go, hey, wait a minute, I I, I donated $100, but my credit card statement says that I paid $107 or whatever it is. What's that about? They're not going to blame the credit card processing company, the software company for that. They're going to wonder why you are working with a company that does that. They're going to assign a lot of the blame for you, and that's not something that we want. So please, 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 if you, especially if you choose to require your donors to cover those processing fees, please go make sure that mechanism works as well as it can. Let's see, I think we've got a couple of questions. Yes, Matt, we will send out the slides. Great. All right, I think we're good. So please check that. I'm a big fan of asking donors to cover the processing fees. If you're not doing that, please go talk to your online donation provider and see if there's some sort of button or something you can subscribe to, or however that works, to see if maybe you can enable that in your online donation forms. Because if you don't have that available, you're missing out on quite a bit of money that is being charged to you that many donors, most studies say about 80% of donors will cover those processing fees. So see if you can get that enabled if it's not. If you're going to default or require people to cover those processing fees, please make sure that it works the way that it's supposed to work, and check it fairly often. Okay, so I like this one too, talking about payment options. Most of the time when we think about online donations, we think about credit cards, right? That's how most people pay for almost anything online. That is starting to change. More and more people are using their Google Wallet or their Apple Pay. And I know from having 4 kids, all of whom are 18 or older, that Venmo is incredibly popular. In fact, the #1 question that I get these days as I travel around to conferences, and I'm leaving for one on Thursday, is, James, we love Bloomerang, so happy with it. We want to get younger donors in place. How do we get younger donors in place? We're good. We've got a bunch of boomers, Gen X, even millennials. Great. How do we get younger folks to donate to us? And this is the #1 question that I ask them immediately. Do you have Apple Pay, Google Wallet, or most importantly, Venmo, available as a method of payment on your online donation form? Because if you're not meeting those donors where they are, they're going to go find someone who will meet them where they are. The story I like to tell is actually the young lady right behind me, and the people have said she gives Jackie O vibes, which makes her smile to no end when I tell her that story. Her name is Faith. She's our second daughter, and she called me up a while ago, a couple of months ago, and said, "Hey, Dad, I've been volunteering with this organization off campus, and I'd really like to donate to them because they've got a big campaign or something coming up. But I just went to their website, and they say that they take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, but I don't have a credit card. So I can't donate to them. I have a debit card, but it says credit cards. It doesn't say anything about debit cards." Okay, sweetie, you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. Just plug your debit card in there and go. You're in good shape. Don't sweat it. But Faith knows that this is what I do, that this is my job, and that I understand this stuff, and I can help her out with all of that. If I do what my wife does, and I was a school teacher, she might not have called me, and that organization would not have gotten her donation. But I know that she knows how to use Venmo. So if the little Venmo logo had been up there, no worries. She would have donated through her Venmo account without thinking twice about it. I know that she knows it because I can pull up and show you all of the requests for taco money that I get at least once a week from all 4 of them. It's great being a parent. I love it. So please think through if that's an option that you all can add to your existing online donation forms. Again, is there a little toggle that somebody can switch to add that in, or what needs to happen? And if that's not available as a feature, maybe that company could add that to their roadmap and think about incorporating Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Wallet, anything like that moving forward, because it's going to become more and more common as the Gen Z folks start donating more and more. We're going to need to be able to give them what they're looking for there. So think through how we can maybe make that happen. Okay. I also love the idea of designating funds and then offering the ability to leave a gift in honor or in memory of someone. So let's talk about the second one first. Leaving a gift in honor or in memory of someone creates an emotional bond, right? We all know that those donors are generally more difficult to retain. It's harder to get them to come back and give again because they're donating maybe because someone has passed away or something important has happened to someone in their life. So it can be hard to really get sticky and get them to come back. But still, creating that emotional connection with you will leave them with those good thoughts in their head about your organization. And that can eventually lead to some different kinds of conversations that you can have with them. So think about adding that in if it's a possibility. And then designating the fund is one of my big features that I really like to see on online donation forms. There are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, it gives you some insight into what the donor is passionate about. So if the donor has to give to the general operating fund, great, we're not going to turn away a donation, but it doesn't really tell you what they're passionate about. Whereas if they're able to select different program areas or different needs that you have or anything like that, then you get some insight into what they care about, and you can use that to customize communication moving forward. So that instead of saying the next time you send out an appeal letter, or maybe you're going to send out an email for Giving Tuesday, let's say, and instead of saying, hey, we have this big goal for Giving Tuesday, we need your help to hit it. You can say, hey, we know that you donated before around this program over here. We still need help there. Here's what's been going on with that program. Here's where we want to take it, and we need your help to get there. That's much more likely to strike the right chord with your donors and have them say, okay, yeah, let's do it, and click on that link and donate again. So when you're able to allow your donors to tell you more information about you, or about them rather, then you can use that information moving forward. Always a good idea to get more information from your donors when that's an option. Let me look up here real quick. And Brianna is asking, does Bloomerang charge extra to add Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Wallet options? I do, you're not gonna like my answer. I don't know. I don't know if you are a current Bloomerang user, so I don't know what plan you have now. There are different packages, and so a lot of times no, and then sometimes yes. And I'm sorry to be really vague. I'm not sure where you're coming from or what you're using now. But the cost is usually very minimal if that's necessary. Feel free to, again, my email will be the last screen at the end. Feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to connect you with someone who can help you with that. Yeah, good idea, Brianna. Cool. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about, and then we'll talk about the statistics for those, is the newsletter. So the idea here for years and years and years is that on an online donation form, a lot of times there's been a little checkbox that people can check to say, yes, I want to sign up for your newsletter. And what we're hearing from consultants and other industry experts is that that might be no longer needed. So the idea is if someone is donating to you, they're opting into communications from you. As long as the caveat being that there needs to be an easy way for them to opt out of those communications, obviously. So if you send them a newsletter, make sure that that link's available at the bottom. But no reason to really ask them to sign up for the newsletter. If they're donating, just kind of figure, yeah, we're good to go, and start sending them that newsletter if you'd like to. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of statistics here. We started by talking about organizations that ask the donor to cover the processing fees. So 56%, almost 57% of the organizations we donated to requested that the donor cover the processing fee. 28% defaulted to cover the processing fee. So just to repeat myself one last time, if you are defaulting to covering the processing fee, make sure that's working as you want it to work. The last thing you want to do is upset your donor, so make sure that that's working. The ability to make a donation through Google Pay, Apple Wallet, Venmo, anything like that. And I will add, I was very generous with this. So if you gave the ability to donate through Venmo only, but not the other two, I still counted it. And that was only 14.6%. So would love to see that number go up. Hopefully we'll keep doing these, and over the next 5 years, let's say, I would love to see that number climb and climb and climb and climb. Honestly, it needs to get up over 50%. because I think more and more of the younger generations are going to use those alternate methods of payment, and we need to make sure that we're giving them that option so we don't lose them as donors. The ability to designate a fund, 28.8% of donations allowed me to designate my fund, and 55.2% allowed me to leave a gift in honor or in memory of someone. And then newsletter was at a little bit less than 10%, about 9.8%, which seems about right to me. I think that number will continue to drop as we see people figure if they've donated, we're good. Should be in good shape there. Okay, so the landing page. So what do we mean by the landing page? So I go to your organization's website, I click the donate now button, I type in my credit card number, my name and address, all of that good stuff. I hit submit, and what happens? Where do I go after that? What do I see? Do I stay on your website? Am I sent to a third-party website? Is there engaging content for me, or am I just kind of dead-ended somewhere? What does that look like? Because one of the things that we're interested in here is continuing the conversation with those people that want to continue the conversation. So there's going to be a lot of people, right, who are on their lunch break. Oh yeah, I forgot. I need to remember to go to the Boys and Girls Club and I need to donate to them. Okay, let me go do that right now. And they go to your website and they donate, and that's it, right? They're done. They got to go back to eat their lunch. They're going to go talk to their coworkers, whatever it is that they're going to do. Don't worry about those people. That's great. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to donate. But there will be some other people who will want to learn more after donating. And if you put some information on that landing page about some volunteer activities, or maybe some upcoming events, or something to engage with them, they will engage with that. And they will click on those links and look at those photos and whatever else you're able to do with all of that. So think through what that page looks like now. Go give yourself that donation, see what that page looks like, and think about it from the perspective of a brand new donor. Are we engaging with this person, or is it kind of, great, thanks for your gift, see ya? Is there a way for us to continue that conversation with those who want to continue it? So think through making it as easy as possible for people to donate, thinking about keeping that landing page on your website if possible. That's going to increase the comfort level for your donors. Not all of them, but some of them will look up at the address bar and they'll see something different up there and they'll think, what is that? I thought I was donating to the Boys and Girls Club. What is that? So if you're able to keep it on your website, please think through keeping it on your website. That's really, really helpful. It'll be more comfortable for your donors. Plus, it gives you the ability on your website to throw in those links and those images. Videos are a nice possibility. All kinds of fun, engaging content to keep that conversation going with your donors. So a lot of advantages for keeping things on your website. Think through how possible that is for you all. 38% of the organizations that I donated to kept the landing page on their website, and only 35.6% had some sort of links, photos, video, something. Again, I was pretty generous with this. Again, if it was a dead end page and I couldn't do anything with it, then then that was an easy one to score. But if there were any sort of, even just the standard toolbar at the top of the screen, then I gave them credit for that. So think through how to make that as engaging as possible for your donors, with the idea being that we want to really continue that relationship with them. We don't want this to be a donate and they're out and then they don't see us again until we send them an appeal or we send them an event notice or whatever. We'd like to continue that conversation as much as they are willing to. So a couple of real world examples here. I love the one in the middle there that says you just did something amazing. That makes me feel really good as a donor. That's awesome. I love that. Over to the right, you see the ubiquitous PayPal landing page. I'm not fully sure how things work with PayPal. Sometimes I donated through a PayPal form and I would get redirected back to the organization's website after maybe 10 seconds or so. And other times I didn't, and I was just dead-ended on this this page here, like you see. So I'm not really sure how that works, to be really honest with you all. I don't know. I don't know if there's a button you have to flip, or I don't know how that works. But if you're using PayPal, think about maybe trying to figure out how to get the landing page to redirect back to your website after the gift is made. That's much better than the, I mean, this is fine, but then someone can continue that conversation and click on those links and all of that if they want to. I love the video here. So if you're able to do that with maybe a webcam or something like that, or your iPhone, the Feeding America folks here recorded a video of service recipients. Think through that really carefully. Be careful with privacy and all of that. So be very purposeful with that. But if that's a possibility, that's awesome. That's just what donors want to see. So if you're able to do that, great. And then at the bottom there, the Humane Society, it's cheating a little bit. Everybody likes looking at pictures of kittens and puppies and all of that. They're just adorable. So think through if there are some fun images or some good photography that you can make use of, because that gives people the warm fuzzies as well. So think through those different options and what you might be able to do to make things a little more engaging and give those warm fuzzies to your donors. Okay, so we're going to talk about the receiving email pretty briefly here. This won't take too long. This is the automated one that goes out after the gift is made. And 9 times out of 10, it's in the donor's email box within a minute after the donation is finalized. So first question we want to ask is, was it emailed? Yes or no? That's an easy one. But then we also want to find out, was it personalized? So talking about PayPal a second ago, all of the PayPal receipts that come in when I donate through a PayPal online giving form are all very much invoices, right? So there's no customization on them at all. In fact, I don't even think my name is on it. And if there's a mention of the donation, it's in the, it's not phrased as a donation. It's that I made a payment of $25. So I'm assuming that's not really an option to personalize or customize those PayPal receipts. I would guess, if I've never gotten one that I can remember that's personalized or customized. So that's something that you want to maybe reach out to PayPal and see if that's something that they're willing to work on. It seems like a fairly basic thing that they should be able to provide a couple of templates for those automated emails to go out. If you're not using PayPal, if you're using something else, please, please, please make sure that you're personalizing that. I can't tell you how many times I would get an email, receiving email that just said, "Dear donor," or "Dear friend," or something like that. And that's a bummer, man. I just donated to you. I put my name in there. I typed my address. I typed all that stuff in there. Let's put my name in there. That seems like a pretty basic one. So again, if that's not something that you're able to do with your current system, think about contacting those folks and seeing if they're able and willing to listen and maybe put it on their product roadmap or what they can do to help with that, because those are fairly basic things. So the last one here is links and all of that. And the idea there is same as for the landing page. We want to make sure that we're giving people the opportunity to engage with us if they'd like to. So thinking back earlier, somebody on their lunch break, they donate to you, they don't have time to engage with you, no worries. Then a couple hours later, they open their email. There's your receiving email sitting there. They do have time at that point, maybe. And if there are some links in that email for them to click and see what upcoming events you have, what volunteer opportunities there are, anything like that, maybe they will. Maybe they won't, but give them the chance. And those that do will probably find out some pretty cool stuff and might want to stay more connected with you. So communicating with your donors, this one should be at 100%. And the fact that it's not bums me out to no end. If you're, and this goes back again to giving yourself an online donation, make sure that when you give yourself a gift that you get a receiving email. And if you're not, go talk to your online donation provider and ask them what's up. Because this is, donor stewardship 101. This is basic, basic, basic stuff. So if this is slipping through the cracks, we need to have a conversation with our online donation provider, because that needs to get fixed immediately. 96.6% of the gifts that I made over the last 18 months or so had an email receipt automatically sent to me. So that, I hate math so very much, but let's say 3.5% that didn't send that. Those folks need to go and talk with their online donation providers, because that's something that needs to get fixed. Was the receipt personalized? So again, I was fairly lenient here. If my name was anywhere on that email, yes, that email was personalized. So I'm not looking for an in-depth, handwritten note or an in-depth individually typed note or anything like that. This was just, does it have my name in there? Does it maybe have the gift amount, the date, something like that? If it had those things, then I gave them credit for it. And still only 46% were personalized or customized. So a little bit over 50% were not. That's good room for improvement. We love to see those numbers come up a little bit as well. And very, very few, I don't know where the last slide went, very, very few, less than 5% had any sort of links or anything like that in the email that I could click on and go get more information about. I threw up some examples here that do have a few links. So I counted this over here. If they had a link in the footer, great, I'll give it to you. This is better, so I can learn more about, look at that, monthly giving right here in the receiving email. I can learn more about that just by clicking this link. I can visit the website over here. I can visit the website up here. You'll notice that none of these go on and on and on and on forever. These are not super long receiving emails. It's quick and to the point. Here's the information, here's the date and the amount and all that good stuff. And oh yeah, here's a little bit of extra information for whenever you would like to access it. So don't feel like you need to write a novel. In fact, probably don't want to write a novel for these. Okay, so let's talk about thank yous. There are three main ways that people thank donors. So generally, you're looking at a hard copy thank you letter, then a thank you phone call, and then a personalized, customized thank you email. So hard copy thank you letters, yeah, we still like getting mail that's not bills. I still get appeals, I get thank you letters, I get all that stuff all the time. And the handwritten thank you letters stand out, or at least the handwritten address thank you letters stand out. If you don't have time to handwrite out a whole thank you letter, then handwrite out the envelope. That's always a good idea if you have time for that. And they give you the warm fuzzy feelings. There's a lot, we'll look in a couple of minutes. There's some good examples in here, but take the time to really thank the donor and explain to them what is going to happen. How are you stewarding the gift that they just made to you? Give them some information. Those are the kinds of things that they really want, and that'll make an impact for them. So only, let's see here, about 20%, about 25% of the organizations sent me a thank you letter. I would love to see those numbers go up a little bit. People do still like receiving mail from time to time, although I will add this bullet point right here is really important. So if you want to take the time to survey your donors and find out who wants a thank you letter versus who wants a thank you email versus a phone call or whatever, that's a great idea. Then you can narrow it down and you're not sending mail to people who don't want it. I will tell you, I would probably rather have a thank you letter than a thank you email because I get so many emails as it is right now. I don't really like having to sift through them. Whereas when I go out to the mail, kind of enjoy getting something that's not a bill or coupons or whatever. So you never know unless you ask. If you run that survey question by people, you might be surprised at what you find out there. Then the other thing to think about is thank you phone calls. We're going to spend a couple of minutes talking about this because I think it's really, really important. Really good things happen when you make thank you phone calls. And I'm going to dig into that in just a second here. And before I go too far down this road, you don't have to actually talk to the donor. Leaving a voicemail is absolutely fine. And text messages also work. So don't feel like it has to be voice to voice. There are a lot of different ways to do this. The other thing I'll point out is the third bullet point on the screen right here. Please think through adding in other stakeholders in the organization who can help you with this. I know all of you work really hard and wear multiple hats and have way too much to do as it is. And the idea of picking up a phone and making phone calls to donors is horrific based on your current workload. Totally get it. So see if maybe you can pull in a volunteer phone bank. Maybe there are other staff people who can help. Your board members will not want to do it, but if you insist on it or if you guilt them into it, some of them will. And the thing is, I've heard this anecdotally more times than I can count. Board members come up to me at conferences and they say, I liked it. I enjoyed it. it's not an angry phone call. I'm calling someone who just donated to us and they're excited about donating to us and they want to tell me all about the really cool things that they saw or that they experienced or whatever it was. And so most of the time, I get a chance to have a really happy phone call with people. In fact, most of the board members that relay that information to me tell me that they've never had an unhappy call. So it might be kind of getting the board members over the hump of making that first phone call. And after that, they might be more than willing to jump on the phone for you. So think through how to get other people involved so that you don't have to do it all by yourself. All right, so several good things happen when you make phone calls, make thank you phone calls to donors. Absolutely get donor motivation information. You can find out information about preferred communication methods, fill in contact information. Yes, yes, yes. All of that is wonderful and really, really helpful. So good stuff. Matt is asking call or letters over texts and emails. I would prioritize if you're able to do calls, voicemails, voice calls, yes, do that. And then I would probably do letters and then emails and then texts. But I think there are a couple of different ways that you can look at that. And again, some of those donors are going to have very specific feelings about how they want to be contacted. So if you're able to ask them how they prefer to be contacted with, that's always a good idea. So we here at Bloomerang looked at this statistic and then the next slide, and we said, really? For those of you who are my age, who are old, we did Seth Meyers, Amy Poehler, Saturday Night Live, Weekend Update. Really? Maybe? Anyway, we looked at that and we said, it sounds too good to be true. Really? Really? And here's the other one. And we love Penelope Burke. Adore Penelope. She's wonderful. But the idea that increasing the gift that much just by making a phone call seems a little bit crazy. So we decided, hey, let's look at our own data. We have at the time 15, 16,000 customers, whatever it was. So why don't we look and see what happens when people make phone calls? So we looked at what happens when people do make phone calls and what happens when they don't make phone calls. And we looked at 3 different areas. And spoiler alert, because I'm spending this much time talking about it, good things happen when you make phone calls. So the first area we looked at was just overall retention, just donor retention, the likelihood that they would come back and make a second gift, in other words. And I'm going to really round up and round down as I'm talking with these statistics. But if you look at this slide, it says that the likelihood that they come back and make a second gift almost doubles with 2 phone calls. That's awesome just by itself. That's amazing. Then you get the second gift so much more quickly than if you don't make a phone call. So no phone calls, it takes almost 3/4 of a year before you get that second gift versus making a phone call, you get the second gift in under 2 months. You get that second gift so much faster. And then the size of the second gift goes way up as well. So all in all, really good things happen when you invest in making those phone calls. And again, want to urge you, please pull in volunteers, staff members, other people to help you with that because it is a lot of work. So think through how to get other stakeholders involved, but please think through how that might be possible for you all because it makes an enormous impact for organizations. All right. So personalized thank you email is the last area that we looked at. Oh, let me tell you the statistics. Sorry. I hate this one. Only less than 2% called me out of all of those gifts. So very, 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 very few people are making those phone calls. So think through if that's a possibility to add for you because it's incredibly impactful. No one, not no one, but very few other people are doing it, which increases the impactfulness for your donors. Okay, thank you email. So this is not the email receipt, right? This is different. This is personalized. Usually, I think this is a copy and paste job. So maybe somebody has an email draft saved in their draft folders. They open it up, they highlight it, they copy, go over to a new email, paste it, change the name, whatever needs to be done, send it on off. This is, I think, one of the easiest things that can be done, and it really does make a nice difference. You can start up a conversation, as we'll look at in just a second here. You never know who will respond to a question that you ask, and it's just an easy, nice way to say thank you to somebody that really doesn't take a lot of time. Having said that, only about 15% of the gifts that I made came back with an email like this. So that number I would love to see rise up substantially as well, because it really doesn't require a lot of time when you're talking about sending an email, like especially the two on the right. So I included the one on the left because I love the video. All right, that's the main reason that that one is there. If you have the opportunity to record a video, people will watch the video. What I don't like about the one on the left is I'm not crazy about the big header at the top and all of the text and all of that. We want to keep these personalized emails nice and simple. Look at the one in the middle and the one on the right. Look at the one on the right. Thanks for being a first-time donor. We appreciate your support. Awesome. Cool, cool. I get good, happy feelings. At most that took 10 seconds for somebody to type that, and quite possibly they copied and pasted it and it took less time than that. Again, not a big time commitment. I love the one in the middle. Wanted to reach out and thank you for your donation to the club. Why'd you donate right now? Cool. I like that. So a lot of people will not respond to that email, but a few will. And if you are able to start up a meaningful dialogue with a few donors and find out why they donated right now, what areas of the mission they're interested in, all kinds of stuff like that, you can arm yourself with a lot of really good information for future appeals, but also maybe to give to your volunteer coordinator. Maybe you also found out that they would be good to head up something at your next event or whatever. Lots of different possibilities there. And again, a lot of people will not respond to that, but those that do, you'll get really good information from it. I love those personalized emails a whole lot. The last area we're going to talk about, yeah, we're doing good on time, is follow-up actions. So the idea here is that I've donated. Now what happens? You thanked me, maybe? Am I being added to a newsletter list? Am I being invited to different activities? What's going on that is going to allow me to stay informed, to stay engaged, so that I can choose to participate in whatever different options there are that you give me? And realize that some of this stuff may happen before you send out a thank you letter, for instance. That's totally fine. No worries. Maybe that newsletter was already scheduled to go out, and because I'm a brand new donor, I'm going to get that newsletter the day after I donate, and the thank you letter doesn't come for another week. That's cool. No worries. Not worried about that at all. I will say there were multiple times that I would get an appeal letter before I got a thank you letter, and that's a real bummer. If we can avoid doing that, let's not do that. Let's not send an appeal letter, appeal email, anything like that until we've thanked the donors, ideally a couple of times. We want to make sure that they know that we really, really appreciate their investment in what we're doing before we go and ask them to up to the next level. Okay, so let's talk about newsletter. We're going to talk about why all of this matters and why it's so important to inform people about what's going on in your organization. And the bottom line is, those of you that have heard anybody at Bloomerang talk over the last 12, 15 years know that we are really passionate about donor retention. Our big goal is to help improve donor retention in the nonprofit space because of this slide right here. It is so much cheaper to retain an existing donor than it is to go out and get a brand new donor. And that makes sense when we think about how most of us are getting those brand new donors, right? A lot of times we're holding an event, gala, golf tournament, pup strut, whatever it is. We're holding some event, and then think through the time, the energy, the money, all of those costs that go in to setting up those events and holding a really successful event. All of that is designed to engage with potential donors, to communicate with them why what you're doing is so critical and why we need their help. And it's all good. We've got to do all of that. That makes a lot of sense. But once someone has already said, yeah, I really like that, and yeah, I'm on board, I want to help support that, it should be easier the next time around to go back to them and not have to sell them again on everything. We should be able to have a much more straightforward conversation, which is pretty much what this slide is saying. The numbers that I've always heard is that for every $1 you raise from a brand new donor, it costs the organization about $1.30. Whereas for every $1 you get from an existing donor, it costs the organization about a quarter. As I've said a couple of times, I'm not good at math, but think, I think that means we should focus at least a little bit on those existing donors, on those people who have already said, yeah, I like you, I like what you're doing, I want to support that. So spare some thought for them and make sure that we're continuing to tell them what's going on so that we can keep them informed. If we look at the average donor retention rates across the industry, they're not great. An average donor retention rate across all donors is 42.6%. That's not super. That's not great. And I think the reason that it's that low is because of the bucket there on the left. So only 20% of first-time donors are coming back and donating again the next year. If we think about that in terms of the events that we hold, in terms of the money and the time and the energy and all that we're spending on them, to realize that 4 out of 5 people who donate at that event are not going to donate again is heartbreaking. It's especially heartbreaking because if you look at that bucket on the right, really good things happen retention-wise if we can get someone to make that second gift. That retention rate goes way up at that point. So we really just need to move them from the first gift to the second gift. So we need to ask ourselves, how can we do that? What is it that donors want in order to keep them donating? So the flip side of that coin, of course, is why do they stop donating? Why would someone who attends an event and hears about all the wonderful things that you're doing and hears the testimonials from people and watches the amazing tear-jerking videos and all of those wonderful things that happen at events, why wouldn't they donate again? You're doing amazing work. You're doing wonderful things. You're impacting their community. That's what donors want. So why wouldn't they donate again? We've highlighted some of the areas here from a survey that was done a while back that I think are particularly salient. So the ones on the left are all heartbreaking, and I hate every single one of them, but they are also truth. If 5% are saying, I don't think the organization needs me as a donor, that's 5% too many. If they don't have a memory of supporting you, that's 9% too many. That's way too many people who forgot that they donated. That means that they felt engaged, they felt connected, they felt like they wanted to support you, they did support you, and then they forgot about it. That's not great. I think you can boil down the ones on the left to the one on the right, poor service or communication. Donors stop donating because they want to know what's going on, and sometimes organizations let them down and don't tell them what's going on. So on the flip side again of that coin, why do donors keep giving? We have 7 really good answers here. These answers are absolutely gold, but we need to think about them critically. Look at number 1. Donor perceives the organization to be effective. Who is telling them that your organization is effective? It's got to be you. You have to tell them that. No one else is going to tell them. Every once in a while, they'll run across a press release or a news story or something like that, and they go, oh, wow, that's awesome. Great. And those are amazing. Keep doing those when you get the opportunity. Please, please, please. That's awesome. But they don't come along all that often. Most of the time, the donor needs to hear from you that you all are doing really good work. You're making an impact. You're changing their world. Look at number 5. Donor feels like they're part of an important cause. Again, who's telling them that you are an important cause? If you're not telling them, they're not hearing that from anyone. Last one that I'll point out on this list, although all of these are really, really good. Number 7, donor receives info showing who is being helped. So please, please, please be careful with privacy concerns, make things anonymous, do whatever you need to do with that. Think through that carefully and think through it purposefully. But if you are able to tell stories around the people who are being helped, that is the information that donors want to receive. They will feel more connected and they will continue to participate and be a part of things if you tell them those stories. So think through how to do that. Use emotional connections to drive donations. One of the best ways through doing that is, as I just said, tell stories. So all stories, think about your favorite TV show, your favorite movie, your favorite book. They all have a character, conflicts, goal, and change over time, right? That's maybe with the exception of a James Joyce novel, but everything else has those 4 items there. think through how to tell those stories in such a way that highlights what I think is the most important one on this list. Number one, character. It's all about character. So I should say, our oldest daughter lives in Chicago, takes the L every day, about 40 minutes or so each way. So she reads a lot. Last year, she topped out at like 165 books or something for the year. She's amazing. She reads a lot. I read a lot. I do not read that many, but I'm on planes a lot and I read on the treadmill and all of that. We share book recommendations back and forth sometimes. We don't do it all the time. In fact, we don't do it a lot. We both read a lot of books, and there is some overlap in the Venn diagram of the books that we read, but not a ton. And it got me thinking the other day. I was like, why don't we recommend more books to each other? What is it about a book that makes me, when I'm done, pick up my phone, text Larissa, and say, hey, you got to check this out. It's really good, and vice versa. And I think it comes down to number one on this list, to characters. That's what we get emotionally invested in. The conflict, the goal, the change over time, those are all things that happen around or to that character. Character is what's most important. Think about the last time it's 2 in the morning, you're reading a book, and you know you have to stop because you have to get up in a few hours, but you can't put the book down because you got to find out what happens to these people. People love characters. We all love stories that highlight those characters that we love. So think through how you might be able to tell stories using the characters that are in your world to share the impact that your work is having with your donors. They will appreciate it and they will keep coming back. So yeah, harness the power of storytelling to share your impact. Think through sending out a newsletter. Only had 16% of the organizations add me to a newsletter list. And I got to tell you, that was shocking. I thought for sure that was going to be a bit higher. What that tells me probably is that there are a lot of organizations that are using something like PayPal, MailChimp, and Excel. Some combination of some programs, something like that, where it's hard to get data to go back and forth between those different silos. So there are automated solutions if you're using those or similar systems. There are automated solutions that might help with that. You might also get to the point where you want to look at maybe a different system. Whatever you do, make sure that you test it out carefully to make sure that it's easy to send communication to your stakeholders, whether that's an email newsletter or different segmentations, whatever it is, make sure it's easy to do that as much as you possibly can. Also a good idea to call your donors or email them and invite them to come in and take a tour or invite them to come in and volunteer. So if we think about those brand new donors from your events, they've heard a lot about your organization. They've heard a lot of really great things, but it's all kind of abstract, right? So let's get them on site. Let's get them to see with their own eyes and ears the impact that you're having, the lives that you're changing, the improvement that is happening in their community. If they see it for themselves, they're much more likely to begin to understand the impact that you're having, and that will allow them to come back and donate again and again. Having said all of that, only had 7% that invited me to take a tour, come out to an event, anything along those lines. So think through, simplifying that process and making sure that you get people to just inform them about what's going on. The last thing that I want to leave you with is number 3 on this list right here. Ask for recurring gifts. So ideally, best case scenario, you will have the ability in your current system to very quickly look at a brand new donor and say, oh, they have the capacity to be a major donor. So I need to put them off over here because we're going to have a different conversation with them. But these people down here do not have the capacity to be a major donor. They are perfect for recurring donors. So what we need to do is take that group of people and communicate with them a little bit differently. So if they are going to be recurring donation prospects, then think about talking through the lens of what does $25 a month accomplish? What is $50 a month, and so on. Talk about that ongoing need and then the ongoing solution that that donor can provide. If you were able to incorporate phone calls into your thank you cadence, you'll be able to differentiate very quickly if you talk to people and see who might be open to that kind of conversation versus who is maybe not ready for that quite yet. So you'll be able to judge that just a little bit better. So wrapping up, lots of good information here. I want to make sure there's at least a couple of minutes for questions here. So I'm going to get to my email address here. Again, we'll send these slides out so you'll be able to access the QR codes and all of that. And there we go. There's my email address. So I want to make sure that that's up there for a couple of minutes for anyone who might want to send me an email if you're not comfortable asking questions here. But if anyone has any questions right now, I don't think I have any. Oh, I might have missed one. I apologize. Donna. Oh, all right. Thanks, Donna. That was nice. If anybody has any other questions, want to chat them, that would be great.
James.
Yeah.
So earlier in the conversation, you said that basically consultants said that newsletters are not that viable anymore. But towards the end here, you were kind of painting the picture about the newsletters. So just trying to get some more clarity on that.
Good question, Matt. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on that. I apologize. So consultants have said that it's not necessary to put a little box on your online donation form asking someone to opt into the newsletter. But
okay.
newsletters themselves, definitely good. Still keep doing that if you can.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, good question. Anyone else? Other questions? Thanks, Susan. It's a very nice comment. I appreciate it. Good. Thank you, Eleanor.
All right. We don't have any more questions. Like James said, feel free to email him if any questions come up. And I just want to say a big thank you to you, James, for this incredibly informative presentation. And thank you to everyone that's joined us today. Look for that recording that we'll be sharing and also the slides as well. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions and keep an eye out for any upcoming free webinars that we offer in the future. I think that's all. So have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.